It's September 6, 2025, live, recorded from the History Center, and Jackie's back.
Hello, my name is Jackie Garinger McDermott, and we're recording live from the English Valley's History Center in North English, Iowa. This diary was written by my great-great-aunt, Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade, who was known as Libby Wade. She is 75 years old in July of 1950. And here's a picture of Aunt Lib with her great-granddaughter, Barbara Wade. I will read and talk about a few days in the diary and then switch to happenings around the History Center and feature stories. July 7th, 1950. The news from Korea sounds worse than ever. It is terrible that war is on again. This is a lovely day, rather cool. Jenny came up and got jars, etc. for raspberries. She went to Kinross for them, drove Russell's car. Russell went to Cedar Rapids today. He is feeling better, but not eating very well yet. Jenny went over to Lila's for the laundry for us, $2.50 this time. I washed jars and did more crochet work. Had green beans and fresh side pork for dinner. Should feel better now. Jenny Wade is Lib's daughter-in-law, married to her oldest son, Wayne or Perky Wade. They live a block away. Jenny is headed to Kinross to buy raspberries from Mr. Cray, who is the father-in-law of Lib's daughter, Anna. Jenny is driving Russell's car, as after World War II, not every family had a vehicle yet. Lib's son, Russell, who is 42 years old, has been suffering from an ulcer. Lib lives in the house with him and prepares the majority of the meals, so she is naturally concerned with what he eats. Lila Cobb does laundry for Russell and Lib. She is the mother of Lib's grandson by marriage, Glenn Cobb. And here's a picture of Lila. She's right here. Mary R. brought a dozen eggs, was here a while, and then went to Edith's. Her berries are ripening, and some of the neighbors are helping pick them. She told me Joe O'Brien's have another baby, a girl, a day or two old now. The mother went home with him. The wife is in the Iowa City Hospital. Mary Wade Regseger is almost 73 years old and is Lib's longtime friend. She's the younger person in this picture. They grew up in the Green Valley area east of town, where Lib taught school and married. Mary and her husband Fred lived east of town on a farm that Wayne or Sliver and Martha Moffat lived in. After World War II, many of these Iowa farm families started moving to town. Mary is now a widow and owns the property at 224 East Oak, which has a large garden and a chicken coop where she gathers the eggs. Mary sells eggs to Lib, which she carries with her on her way to get her hair done at Edith's salon uptown. Mary also tells Libs the news from the Susie O'Brien household at 213 Oak Street. Susie's son Joe, who's in this a picture of the O'Briens right here, is married now and lives in eastern Iowa. They have a new baby girl, so Susie, the mother, went to stay with Joe's family. Jenny and Frida went to get the berries and they canned them. They brought me 10 quart canned. They were 35 cents per quart. Others asked more, but Mr. Cray still sells at the same price. Russell cut the weeds in the garden and yard after supper and then went away in the car. Frida Wade is married to grandson Walter, and they live half a block away. Frida was a longtime North English grade school teacher. Russell often leaves in the evening to go see his girlfriend, Mildred Reese, who's right here in this picture. Mildred lives with her parents west of town on a farm. July 8th, 1950. Nice this morning. Warmer predicted for this afternoon. My foot hurt last night, so I didn't sleep until late. It's not quite so bad today. Russell bought a chicken at the store. I'm cooking part of it and have turnips and potatoes ready to cook. After dinner and the dishes washed, I rested a while. Then Millie came. She told of Sarah Ballard's death. She was here an hour or so, and then Mrs. Bolts and Stella Wagner came. Mrs. Wagner is Mrs. Ballard's daughter, and she has had her mother with her. She said she had been bedfast for over 2 years, the poor woman. I can't imagine what she suffered. She passed away yesterday at 10:30 a.m., and the funeral will be here Monday p.m. at 2 p.m. Millie Conifer is a widowed neighbor who came to tell Lib that Sarah Ballard had passed away. Their friend and neighbor, 87-year-old Lizzie Geiger Bolts, was a sister to Sarah Ballard. Mary Newhouse was here a few minutes while Mrs. Wagner and Mrs. Bolts were here. Elsie Miller was here a while later. She had Jenny and Charles Webster's picture that was taken for their gold wedding day, the 8th of March, 1900. Jenny looked so much like her mother, Gertie Patterson, used to look. Mary Newhouse brought some ice cream cones. She stayed until 9:45. Elsie Miller is a neighbor who used to live east of town in the Green Valley area, where Lib taught school before she was married at the turn of the century, or 1900. Mary Newhouse is another neighbor, and she likely got those ice cream cones at Johnson's Locker, which is a half a block away from Lib's house. Russell took some books back to the library. Mrs. Carson came home a few days ago, about Tuesday or Wednesday, I think, from the Iowa City Hospital. Big celebration at Millersburg yesterday and today, American Legion. Lib has been very concerned about the neighbor across the street, Belle Carson, whose family owns Carson's clothing store uptown. Belle has had an operation for cancer, and Belle is in this picture right here with Mrs. Warner and her husband, W.C. Carson. July 9th, 1950. A lovely day. Nice and cool in the a.m., but warm predicted for later in the day. Russell went with Dean Thomas fishing this morning, so I've been alone. Mrs. Bauer came to the back door. She had picked a few raspberries for me, our own. She had all she wanted, she said. She was going away for a few days. Dean Thomas was a friend of Russell's from town. We called him Barney Thomas, and he's right here in this picture. He ran the grocery part of the fair store, which he owned with his sister Helen Dixon and her husband Don Dixon. And here's another picture of Dean Thomas, or Barney, as we called him. And we'll be doing a full feature story on the fair store one of these days soon. July 9th, 1950. Whoops, wrong. Mrs. Bauer was the neighbor to the south of Lib. She picked a few berries from Lib's own bushes because she knows Lib is not able to do lawn and garden work anymore. Russell told of a fight in town. Anderson and Carter. Don't know much about it. Liquor, no doubt. Our gas burned out. I don't know whether we can get any today or not. We can get along anyway. The town of North English does not yet have natural gas service, so other heating and cooking fuels are delivered to the home. Frida and Jimmy came up about 3:30. Walter had gone to the river with Bus. Claudia went to Wellman with Wayne's and Harold's. Russell got home about 5. No fish. Caught a groundhog. Frida and Walter, or Bud Wade, Walter's right here in this picture. He's Lib's grandson. They have a young son named Jimmy. This is Jim when he grew up. And a daughter named Claudia. Claudia is only 2 years old in 1950. Bus that Walter or Bud Wade went fishing with is Bus Hall, and he's right here in this picture. His correct name is Cleo Hall. And Claudia is out with her grandparents, who was Wayne Wade and Jenny Wade, right here. And Harold, who is married and has a little child also. They went to Wellman. Jenny's family, the Butterballs, are from Wellman, as are Wayne's extended family on the Wade side. Hattie rode over in the evening with the Morses as they went to church. We had a nice visit. They had a lot of company today. Some of the McGuire relatives of Leona and also Lavon's folks. Russell went to church tonight. Hattie said Flossie was at Millersburg both days demonstrating the sewing machine. Considerable interest seemed to be shown. Hattie Newberry Killian lives over on Boland Avenue in a boarding house she owns. Her nephew, Lavon Bursler, and his wife, Leona Bursler, who are right here in this picture, live in the house with her. Leona's parents, Charlie and Neva Morris, are giving Hattie a ride since she has been diagnosed with cancer and is not walking around the neighborhood as she used to. Hattie mentions that Lavon's parents have also been over to their house to visit today. Lavon's mother, Ruth Newberry Bursler, is Hattie's sister. Flossie Claypool West is the granddaughter of Lib's cousin Wallace Claypool. She lives in a rented room across the street with her daughter Barbara West and works for Mahana Furniture uptown, demonstrating sewing machines. Since Millersburg had a town celebration, she took her job on the road to Millersburg. July 10th, 1950. Cloudy and warm. It looks rainy, but the forecast is no rain here today. Alice Van Auken was in looking for news items. I didn't help her any. She told about someone being so ill-natured that his wife's children couldn't eat at their own place unless the wife buys the groceries out of her own money. Well off too, but just plain mean. Alice Van Auken is a neighbor lady who happens to be the great-grandma of my friends Carolyn Warner Elwood and her brother Lloyd Warner, and of Kathy Netzer and her brothers Jim and Lynn Morrison. Alice gathers news for the newspaper, and Lib would likely be a good source as she has many visitors, but Lib thought she had nothing remarkable to report to the newspaper this week. Received a letter from Anna today. Sylvia Ann has been quite sick. They feared polio, but the doctor thought it was from new teeth she was getting. Polio is bad down there, and it is increasing here too. None right around here that I have heard of, but it's in the state. Sylvia Ann Cray is Lib's great-granddaughter in Texas, the oldest child of grandson Mylan Cray and his wife. Mrs. Sarah Ballard's funeral is this p.m. The poor soul. She is done with her earthly trials, and there were many. Maud came up and told me about the funeral, and Jenny came too. She brought a few beads. They finished picking cherries at Walter's today. I haven't heard yet from Dolores. Maud said Marion is some better, can eat a little now. Russell mowed the yard after supper. Maud Foster Claypool is married to Lib's nephew, Ray Claypool, and is telling Lib about her niece and Lib's great-niece, Marion Claypool, who is the daughter of Roy and Gail Claypool, who has been battling serious health issues. Marion's right here in the picture, and this is her parents and her sisters. Jenny tells Lib about her sister, Dolores Butterball Lawrence, who has returned to her home in Minnesota with her family, but they haven't had any communication with Dolores since she left North English. Jenny came up to tell me that Mary Regseger is very ill. Someone found her in the chicken house. Dempsey called his mother. Mary Wade Regseger is the daughter of James Robert Wade and Catherine Rosenberger Wade. She is the widow of Fred Regseger, who died in 1944, and they had no children. Her father, James Robert Wade, was a brother to Dempsey's great-grandpa, Francis Wade Sr. Most all the Wades in Iowa County are related in this same huge family. Carrie Wade is Dempsey's mother. Dempsey, or Clarence Wade, is the father and grandfather of several of my listeners. Dempsey is really concerned about Mary R. because she is in the Wade family, so he sent his mother, Carrie Wade, to investigate. And here's a picture of Dempsey in later years. July 11th, 1950. I talked to Mrs. Halls and to Carrie Wade this morning. Mary R. is still very sick, but is up and walks around. Carrie went uptown to talk to the doctor. He was up last evening and will come again this p.m. He told her not to go upstairs, but she did to the bathroom. Eliza and Carrie are with her. Mary Ann was over to see her this morning. She thinks she's bad off. Edith Halls is another neighbor. Eliza and Carrie Wade are staying with Mary Regseger. Lib is telephoning around to find out what she can about Mary R. Mary Newhouse, another neighbor, went to investigate Mary Regseger's health and report back to Lib. Suzanne and Claudia were here a while. Evelyn went to Cedar Rapids. Lib's great-granddaughters, 7-year-old Suzanne Kurtz and 3-year-old Claudia Wade, came over to visit. Lib's granddaughter, Evelyn Wade Kurtz, left for Cedar Rapids and likely left Suzanne with her mother, Jenny Wade, or her sister-in-law, Frida Wade, so the girls can easily walk to see their great-grandma Lib. I was alone in the afternoon, laid down and rested a while. Jenny came up at supper time. There is a ball game tonight at the park. Russell went with Mildred to Franklin. The County Farm Bureau chorus was there. Hattie and Alice were here a while, but on the porch. They went to lodge installation tonight. The Rebecca Lodge meets in the upstairs of the locker building just a half a block away. Minnie Zomer came. I was anxious to hear from Mary Regseger. I don't know any more about her since morning. Minnie takes care of Mrs. Carson's sore caused by the removal of cancer. It is still pretty bad. The doctors cut away a lot of dead tissue today, a big open place yet. She had some temperature today and her pulse was 100. Minnie Zomer is the neighbor across the street and lives next door to Mr. and Mrs. Carson, who own the clothing store. July 12, 1950. Cloudy and warm this morning. Russell said there was a big crowd out at Franklin last night to hear the County Farm Bureau chorus. He talked to some of his old acquaintances. One was Kempf that married one of the Groff twins. He said that $8,000 was spent on the Franklin church when it was repaired and remodeled 2 or 3 years ago. The men of the community donated a lot of the labor. It is very nice now. And here's a picture of the Franklin church today. It was a Methodist Episcopal church in Section 27 of Green Township, Iowa County. The Champion Hill book says it was closed as of 2005, and it's now in the hands of a private owners. Ethel and Frida stopped to tell me about Mary. She lies quietly, paying no attention to anything. Asks for water is all. She hasn't eaten since she got sick on Monday. Had a temperature last evening of 102 degrees. The doctor was there. The doctor told them that she would probably go into a coma and pass away. It seemed so bad. No near relatives at all. Ethel McCarter and Frida Wade stopped by to inform Lib what they knew about her friend Mary R. Jenny was here. She had a letter today from Marie Schultz, a neighbor of Dolores. They arrived home on Thursday. Left here Tuesday, so must have stayed in Waterloo. Dolores is about the same. I think Bob is not better. Mrs. Bolts came up for the first time since her sister's funeral. Elsie Miller brought some pretty flowers. Mary Newhouse came in too. She told of Mary R. wanting raspberry jelly made and some berries canned, so all don't hear alike. She said Eliza was going home. It's pretty hard on her to climb the stairs. And that's the end of the diary portion for today. I've had several listeners who are very concerned about Russell's health and want to know more about his history. He and his longtime girlfriend, Mildred Reese, never married. I myself do not remember Russell or Mildred. I do remember Russell's older brothers, Wayner Perky Wade and Warner Mike Wade, and their wives, and they were most helpful to me when I started doing genealogy and family history work as a teenager. Mylan Russell, or Tyler Wade, died in 1964 at the age of 56. He was on his way back home from enjoying his favorite hobby of fishing with his friend Dave Moyer when he passed away from a heart attack. He was no longer employed at the home lumber company, but was working on Interstate 80 at the time of his death. His sister, Anna Cray from Texas, had passed in 1961, and his mother, Lib Wade, in 1959. We have approximately 8 more years left in the diaries. The English Valleys History Center has been operating on Main Street in North English since 2006. The center operates a museum, monthly programming, a community coffee shop, and provides meeting spaces for groups and organizations. These include family and class reunions, celebrations, gatherings, and club meetings. The History Center offers all of its services by donation only. It does not have annual memberships like many other historical organizations and relies largely on private and community donations. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and donations are tax deductible. Your support of the History Center would help continue its operations and provide a valuable community asset. Please send donations to the English Valley's History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa, 52316. Today's feature story is on the Wilkerson. The Wilkerson family. Although not a family of native pioneer settlers, the Wilkersons have been in North English for about 100 years now and have been highly involved in the life of the community over the years, with many of the family members working jobs in town, attending sports, church and school events, serving their country, and volunteering in North English. William or Bill Wilkerson was born in Red Oak, Virginia in 1894. As a teenager, Bill caught a freight train to Ohio and later to Ladora, Iowa, where he met Hattie Morrison, who was born on a farm north of Keswick. Bill served in World War I in France and on the Mexican border. Bill and Hattie were wed in 1922, and the Wilkerson raised their 9 children in the North English schools, with Hattie tending the home and Bill working for Iowa County and for Plank Feeds. The house that I remember them living in was at 204 East Washington Street, or Smoky Row, which is across the street from where son Butch and wife Colleen live. Bill was a legendary hunter, fisherman, and trapper. Here he is with foxes and coyotes and deer that he has bagged. And here is a picture of Bill with Chad's wife Sylvia when he won the whisker contest during the centennial. And we have this big picture board that tells about the Wilkersons and their pictures from their 50th anniversary in 1972. And all 9 of their children were present. And up on top is this other picture of Bill. This one of their grandchildren, I found that and I took it to their granddaughter Sue Ellen, and I noticed she's missing. And when I inquired about it, she told me that she so badly wanted to be here, but was married, and her husband was stationed in the southern U.S. Also remarkable to me in this picture is how much Hattie looks like her granddaughter Doreen. The Wilkerson children from youngest to oldest were, they're right here, Robert or Butch is the youngest, then Dolores or Dode, Charles or Chad, Clarence Laverne or Squirt, Norman or Tib, Edward Arlo, Francis or Francie, William Dean, who was called Dean, and Leonard. Most of them had nicknames. Leonard Wilkerson graduated from North English High School in 1940 and was in the Army from 1943 to 1945. Here's a picture of Leonard when he was in school. Notice he has the overalls on. Leonard had a cream route from the English Valley's Creamery and worked for George Neff and Larry Kirkpatrick in their businesses. And here's another picture of him at work. Leonard and his wife, Helen Kelly Wilkerson, lived next door to us on Smoky Row until I was 8 years old. They had one little baby, Nancy, who passed away at birth. This picture is in front of their house on West Clark Street. And the second son is right here in the picture. His name is William Dean Wilkerson, and he was called Dean. He completed his high school in the service and served in the 82nd Airborne during World War II and saw action at Anzio and then parachuted into Holland 13 days after D-Day. He was wounded at the Battle of the Bulge and he received a Purple Heart. He then enlisted in the Air Force and served as a tail gunner on a B-29 during the Korean War. He retired after 20 years of service. He returned to North English later in life and was a town policeman while his twin sons, Robert and William, Bob and Bill, attended English Valley schools. The next child was Frances Wilkerson Littrell, or Francie. Francie graduated in 1942 and married Lamont Littrell in 1943. I think this is really a cool picture. They operated the Dairy Cream for 12 years and each had various other jobs around town. Here's a picture of Lamont with an old Jeep. Kind of a neat picture down here on the corner. Both Francie and Lamont retired from working at AV schools, where Francie was the head cook and Lamont drove a bus. There's another picture of them in their centennial outfits right here. Their only daughter is Patty Littrell. Edward Arlo Wilkerson graduated in 1944 and joined the Army Air Corps during World War II, stationed in the Aleutian Islands. Ed went to linotype school at the University of Iowa and then worked at area newspapers until he joined the staff of the Ottumwa Courier, where he retired as production manager in 1994 after 39 years. He was married to Shirley Thomas Wilkerson, and their 6 children are Bob, Norm, Cindy, Janice, Dan, and Kevin. Norman E. or Tib Wilkerson graduated from North English in 1946 and served 2 years in the United States Navy. Tib worked as a cream hauler for the English Valleys Cooperative Creamery and later for the University of Iowa. He was married to Bonnie Wiersma Wilkerson, and they had 5 children: Christy, Sue Ellen, Doreen, Greg, and Dana. Notably, their sons Greg and Dana both have served in the military for many years. And here's a picture of Tib with the North English Centennial Ball team. Got an arrow up to his picture. And we also have a picture of his cream truck in the book, right there. And here's a picture of Tib later in life. The next son was Clarence Laverne, or Squirt Wilkerson. Squirt graduated in 1947 and worked at the record office and Hester's store before joining the Air Force and serving for 25 years. He and my father, John Francis Geringer, and Uncle Marvin Geringer all joined the service the same day in 1950 in hopes they could serve together. That did not happen, as Dad was sent to Germany and they were sent to Japan. This picture right here is actually Marvin Geringer, Squirt Wilkerson, and J.B. Miller in Japan, as my dad never went to Japan. Squirt was an armament technician for the 345th Bomb Squadron during the Korean War. Squirt later lived in Texas with his wife, Doris Sneed Wilkerson, and their 2 sons, Charles and Jim. The next child was Charles K. or Chad Wilkerson. He graduated in the class of 1949 with my mom, Etheldean Keller. His classmate Artie Claypool Weber was quoted as saying he was the nicest boy in the class. Chad worked for the North English Record when this picture of he and Carl was taken. And he served in the Army in Korea in 1953 and 1954. Chad was a cream route driver and worked at the University of Iowa until he and his wife opened the North English Cleaners for over 19 years. He was married to Sylvia Davis in 1955. And this wonderful picture from 70 years ago has been circulating on the internet recently. Here's another picture of Chad and Sylvia. Their children were Deborah, Scott, David, and Sherry. I know their son David is one of my faithful listeners, as he came to our alumni reunion this summer, as did several of his cousins, including Sue Ellen, Malia, Dana, and his aunt and uncle Butch and Colleen Wilkerson. The next child of the Wilkersons is Dolores, or Dode, Wilkerson Wardenberg. She graduated in 1953 from North English, was married to Jim Wardenberg, after which they spent a year in Germany with the U.S. Army. They farm south of Williamsburg, and their children are Michael, Brenda, Todd, and Brad Wardenberg, who all attended Williamsburg schools. And that is Dolores, or Dode, Wilkerson right there, when she was a cheerleader at North English High School. And the youngest son is Robert, or Butch Wilkerson. He was in the class of 1955. Butch is married to Colleen Shiflett from Webster. Here's Colleen's picture in the Everyone at EV book, right there. And Butch's picture is in, this is the annual from 1955, and Butch is right here. Their 4 children all graduated from English Valleys. Their children are Malia, Curtis, Robin, and Leanne. Butch was a cream hauler at English Valleys Cooperative Creamery and managed the North English Ready Mix plant for 25 years. And here's a picture of Butch on their senior class trip. He's right in the middle. And we have, most all these pictures were in the North English 150 year book, and we have it for sale here at the History Center if you're interested in learning more. This is a reminder that the next alumni luncheon group will meet at 11:30 a.m. at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English on Monday, October 27th. Please contact Linda Holden Carter or Alice Floring Stramer for reservations. And here's a flyer on the next program at the History Center. It's on Willard Veely, who was John Deere's grandson. And the reason that's interesting to us here in town is that it says Veely Buggies on the south side of a building uptown. And the program will be Sunday, September 21st at 2 p.m. at the History Center. Correspondence. Connie Brubaker said, "Thanks. I thought my phone was not working. So glad for part 2 with sound. I think Dan Stroman has the 1971 class photo. I believe I have the South English class of 1947. His mom graduated that year. I'll try to locate it for you. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who inquired about me during my recent hospitalization, and a special thanks to the alumni luncheon folks who sent me a get well card. It was a nice surprise." Pam Kavanaugh Shields said, "Another great lesson on the history of our hometown, North English. I appreciate the hours you put into bringing us your broadcasts. Our condolences this week to the family of Susan Sanders Ianello from the EV class of 1990. And she's right here in the picture. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valleys items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap. Thanks, Jackie.